Hey! I'm ChristopherJMUA and welcome back to my channel. Unless you've never been here, of course, so then welcome. I'm so glad you stopped by. Today we are reviewing the Urban Decay Naked Wild West palette. A few shades in this palette are completely different from the other shades that we've seen in the other Naked palettes from Urban Decay, and I'm really excited to see what they look like on the eye and how they work together as well, because I'm really not sure that they're going to yet. So if you'd like to figure out how that goes, and if you'd like to see the swatches of this palette as well as how it performs and my initial first impressions, then stay exactly where you are, keep doing exactly what you're doing, and keep on watching. So first, here's the palette unit carton. It's got this beautiful like snakeskin print on the back of it. It's really gorgeous. And the colors they used for that are just so beautiful. Then it shows, of course, Naked Urban Decay Wild West. And I love how the Wild West lettering is definitely old school Western style. Also shows that it's vegan on the front and cruelty-free on the back. Speaking of the back, if we flip it over, shows it's a vegan formula, gives all the ingredients and I think a description as well. Shows all the shades on the bottom too. And the little brush that they always include in these palettes, which I actually use in my makeup kit for clients. It's a really good brush. And I ordered my palette from Sephora. It was $49, and the description on their website for what it is says a vegan eyeshadow palette with 12 desert-inspired neutral eyeshadows from pale peach and metallic bronze to deep blue, green, and turquoise shimmer. Oh my god. When you first open it, it says most wanted. That's cute. And here is what the actual component looks like. Oh, wow. Oh, that's so pretty. I want my everything to look like that. Really just the blue part. I just want the blue part. Ooh. So, that's the front of the palette. It doesn't feel textured though. The Naked is raised, but not the snakeskin. And now let's open her up and see what she looks like on the inside. That looks so much more dramatic on the back of the palette. On the back of the palette. That green is not that green. Maybe it's close, I guess. I don't know, it just looks brighter printed. Anyway, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom you guys in so that we can get started on swatches. The first shade is the shade Standoff. It's because it's gonna stand off with then the shade Spur, Nudie, Hold 'em. You gotta know when to hold 'em, know when to fold 'em. Cowboy Rick, Laredo, Bud, Rustler, Ghost Town, Whiskey, Tex, and the last shade is the shade Pony Up. And there is every single shade from the Urban Decay Naked Wild West eyeshadow palette. As always, I will insert photos of the swatches, one with flash here, and one without flash here. And here is our video close-up of every single shade. I believe I'm gonna start by using this pointed blender brush, and I'm gonna go into the shade Tex. And with this shade, it's gonna go right in my crease, starting in the outer portion, and then I'm gonna move it slowly into the inner portion. Now, typically, I work backwards from this. I go from light to dark normally. I don't really know why I picked to go dark first. I guess just the most exciting shade in the palette was calling my name. Don't get me wrong. I enjoy the Naked palettes because they do serve their purpose, and I understand their concept, but also it's kind of annoying that every single one of them has almost half the palette the same as every other Naked palette. And then they change the other half to make it fit whatever theme they're picking for that palette launch. And that part's kind of annoying because if you start buying more than one Naked palette, then you've essentially got half of the palette every time already. I guess I just wish that Urban Decay would just launch more palettes that aren't only the Naked palettes. I think the last palette was the Stoned Vibes palette, which I did review that. I'll leave it linked up here if you didn't see it. But I don't even remember the palette before that. Was it the Game of Thrones palette? Was that the one that was before that? I don't know. Either way, it just seems like most major launches from Urban Decay that are palettes are the Naked palettes. I think we need a little bit more variety. Then it wouldn't hit everybody so hard with the Naked palette that everybody's just like, oh, great, another Naked palette. You know what I mean? I don't know. That's just how I would do it if it were my choice and up to me. I think that I now have the beginnings of a look. Maybe. We'll see in the end. I sure hope so. Now I'm going to use the Morphe M139 Pointed Diffused Crease Brush, but I'm not going to use it in my crease. I'm going to go right above my crease and go into the shade Ghost Town. And before I blend anything, all I'm going to do is start placing pigment half on top of the green and half on top of my skin. So, here, and here, and here, and here. And this shade is being taken all the way toward the inner corner. So I'm going to go all the way down to right here. Okay, I think that's pretty good for building up the color. That looks so funny. I always love looking at these looks partway through. I look so ridiculous. But now I'm going to start blending with this brush downward so that the brown will take over the green rather than the green going up and taking over the rest of the look. The shades in this palette definitely have the same pigmentation and blendability as I've had with every Naked palette I've used before, which was good. So I'm having literally no problems thus far. Those actually blended together pretty perfectly. Like, I kind of love it a little bit. But now I'm going to go in with the Morphe M562 brush. It's a super teeny tiny fluffy brush. And I'm going to go into the shade Spur. And I'm going to blend out Ghost Town with Spur. Hopefully. This is where we're going to see if the lighter shades can hold their own or if they're going to blend out into nothing. And again, with placement, just half and half, mostly, sort of. And there's not a ton of kickback in the pan with these, but there is kickback so far in every shade I've used. But that's something I had noticed before with the Naked formula. Usually they are a little bit powdery, but they just build up nicely. And now that the pigment is built up everywhere, I'm just going to go in with the little circular motions and make sure that everything gets blended. I kind of realized that I went a little overzealous with this shade Spur, and I put it too far down and over the shade Ghost Town, so it kind of muted out Ghost Town. Worst case, I'll just go back in and add a little bit more once I get it blended. But for now, I just want to make sure I keep this really light peachy color right on the outside, just so everything kind of flows together, hopefully. Crease is now cut accordingly, and now I'm going to take the Morphe X Jeffree Star JS11 brush and go into the shade Rustler. The swatch of this shade was so beautiful, and it's just as beautiful on the lid. Of course, it's not nearly as potent as it... Oh wow, that's really shiny. Oh, that's cool. I like that. It's not nearly as potent upon initial application as it was with the swatch. Obviously, I mean, when are they ever usually? But it built up super fast. I mean, that was the second application, and it's opaque. And with this shade, I'm filling the whole portion of the cut crease. I think I'm gonna make it kind of a spotlight eye effect. I really shouldn't have cut my crease in the shape that I did for that, but we'll see if it'll work. Worst case, it doesn't, you know? You know, I actually kind of like the green by the gold. I think it sort of works. It's gonna have to be blended for sure, but it is working. Gold is applied. Now I like to add a little bit of teal on the lid just to kind of pull it together with the crease so the crease isn't so lonely with its teal on the outer edge and the orangey goldness everywhere else. So I'm going to use my ring finger and go into the shade Bud. And with this shade, I'm just going to start packing it right on top of the gold everywhere but the outer edges. So the outer corner and the inner corner, I'm not going to touch. So starting in the center, left and right. Well, I thought it was going to give the gold kind of like a duochrome flip. Really, all it did was replace the gold, but that's okay because I still really like that. Now I'm just going to use the same Morphe X Jeffree Star JS11 brush that I used in the shade Rustler. I'm not going to take any new pigment on the brush, but I'm just going to blend Rustler very gently into Bud. Huh, that's very different. I really like it. And now the shade that I've needed to go in with since the beginning, Cowboy Rick. Again, I'm just going to use my ring finger because it's going to go right in the center. It's so pretty. And because that's such a beautiful shade, I'm also going to put it on my brow bone. So I'm going to use the Morphe X Madison Beer little tiny flat brush, and I'm going to just pop that right on the brow bone. It's a really pretty look, and I like it a lot. But we still need to figure out if it's gonna be okay on the lower lash line. So I'm gonna go ahead and go off camera, do all of my face makeup, then we'll come back and do the lower lash line. So give me just a second, I'll be right back again. Face makeup is now done. Let's move on to the lower lash line. I need to definitely tie in some of the teal into the lower lash line, so I'm gonna start by using this Morphe pointed blender brush. I think it's a crease brush. And I'm gonna go back into the shade Tex. And Tex is just gonna go right along the lower lash line. I'm also gonna pull it up and out just a little bit to tie into the upper portion of the crease. And now, using the Luxie 209 large shader brush, I'm gonna go into the shade Nudie, and I'm gonna use Nudie to blend out Tex. And with the shade Nudie, that is the very last eyeshadow and the very last step of the whole look. So, what do you guys think? I think it very much so resembles a naked palette, but I also think it resembles the Wild West. I mean, it's kind of grungy and dingy and dirty looking, like dust and dirt, but it also has the color of a lot of belt buckles in the West. You know those like turquoise belt buckles that are like marbleized? That's what the teal kind of reminds me of. That's what I think of when I think of Wild West and turquoise. Either way though, I think the palette did make a beautiful look. I think it was fun to play with, it was pigmented, it blended really well, but the question is, would I recommend the Urban Decay Wild West palette? I would say if you don't own any other naked palettes or any nude palettes and you like teal or turquoise, then yeah, definitely, because the quality is there, and the blendability is there, the pigmentation is there, and it is a nice nude palette. It's gonna get the job done, and you're gonna be able to add a couple of pops of color, barely, if you want. So it is a pretty versatile palette within the realm that it's made for. Now, if you do have any other nude or naked palette, just get yourself a turquoise, just a single shadow. Or, I mean, even if you just want to still stick with Urban Decay, get one of their single eyeshadows in a teal or a green shade, and then just carry that with your naked palette, and then you've got this palette, especially for $50. If you have any amount of neutrals, then there's no reason for you to pay that kind of price for this. So if that didn't confuse you even more than what you were before this video, I'd love it if you wanted to give me a thumbs up just to let me know that you liked the video, and let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. Do you like this palette? What are your real thoughts? Give me the tea. Also, if you like this look and you want to see more looks like them, you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, and TikTok. My username is the same for everything. It's just ChristopherJMUA. And if you gain nothing out of this video, if you gain nothing out of any of my videos, please at least gain this. And that is to always remember and to never forget that you are, ow, my elbow. I'm gonna cry. That you are absolutely beautiful. And I love you guys. Bye.